I would like to officially kick off AC24 by introducing our first session titled Migration and Implementation, Moving from A to B. This presentation is about assisting and directing organizations migrating from AutoCAD to BricsCAD with an emphasis on establishing vision, intention, and best methods. This presentation is co-presented by one of my close friends, Craig Swearingen. Craig is a senior global implementation specialist and consultant at Briscus. Currently, Craig provides migration and implementation guidance, management strategies, and technical assistance. Here's a fun fact for you. Craig is a longtime Augie member. Craig became a member in 2009. Thank you, Craig. Craig's co-presenter is Mr. Grant Dott. Grant is a senior global implementation specialist and consultant at Briscus. Grant is part of the EMEA Briscus team based out of the UK. Grant has a long client-facing background with a ability to adapt and focus across many disciplines and environments. And here's also another fun fact. Grant is a YouTuber where he shares his best BricsCAD tips and tricks with the world. Craig and Grant, the virtual stage is yours.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric, for that introduction. We also want to extend our thanks to the Augie board for the invitation today. I'm geeking out already this morning. Lynn Allen said my name. So it's been a long time coming to get to this point. But we want to thank you for your invitation, and we're excited to be a part of this overall conference that we expect to learn so much for the next 2 days. So with that, Eric already kind of introduced us. My name's Craig. We got Grant with us today as well. We're both from Briscus. We are global implementation specialists, and we specialize on helping clients get from we'll just say it, AutoCAD to BricsCAD. Every day that is our job, whether it is in the trenches with files or troubleshooting. We are here to assist our clients in making sure that they have a success going from A to B. And with that, I'll let Grant say a little bit more about himself.
Good morning, everyone. It's afternoon here in the UK. Eric, if you're our host, can you allow me to share my video, please? Little technical difficulty to start off the day.
Yes, hold on here.
Yeah. Be good to let everybody know that I am live.
While we're doing that, we might as well have a beer bus cheers, right? Everybody grab your coffee or your favorite beverage. Grant, we saw you. There we go.
Right on. Okay, here we go, everyone. Yeah, and thanks very much. And yeah, as Craig said, what a great buzz to have Lynn Allen say your name. So here we go. Craig, let's get us started today. Tell us what we're going to be talking about.
All right, so many of you may not even be familiar with Briscus or BricsCAD, so we'll discuss that a little bit. We'll get into the top reasons why users change software programs, more specifically BricsCAD. We'll talk about the steps that we encounter on a daily basis, getting companies and users from the program to program successfully. We'll talk about how to download. We'll give you some information and resources on installation as well as migration. We have really great learning tools that are available to not just learn CAD in general, as well as the feature focus that we've been within Augie World Magazine, thankfully, within the past 2.5 years or 2 years. So we want to extend our thanks to Todd Rogers for the invitation to be involved in this users group as it continues to grow and evolve into something that it's quite frankly, it's been constricted in the past. So again, we're very thankful to be here. So we'll turn that over to Grant, and he is going to give us a little bit more about who is BricsCAD and what is BricsCAD.
Yeah, great. What is BricsCAD? Who is BricsCAD? Well, I'll just read the top line there. BricsCAD is a professional CAD platform without compromise. There's a lot of facts and features about it. We are part of the Hexagon Group. 5.2 billion euros. I don't know, that's about $10 million US or something. Who knows what the exchange rates are. But this is a massive company across all of Europe, Americas, and Asia. So we are part of this under the Leica Geosystems division. BricsCAD itself, well, native DWG. We all know what that means, okay? And inclusive with BricsCAD, we have 4 different platforms all running on DWG. Our light version, of course, just what you would think. Our pro version, which is a good introduction to the world of 3D for all you 2D CADers out there. Also, a BIM platform and a mechanical platform. And if you're really adventuresome, you can go for the ultimate and get them all in one go. So 3D as you need it, all of the APIs that you would expect, Lisp, BRX, which is our C++ application runtime, as well as the .NET capabilities. Learning curve is low. AI, why? Because we want to assist you in making the best decisions on what your next step might be. And flexible licensing, cost-effective, right across the board. So Craig, who uses BricsCAD?
As you can see on the screen, we have a wide variety of companies that have already decided to switch to BricsCAD. Whether that's scaffolding companies, architectural companies, obviously you see the automobile manufacturers there. There's a plethora of companies as well as industries that decided that BricsCAD was going to be their solution. As well as those companies, we offer development aspects too, which Grant is going to discuss.
Yeah, very much like that A product. BricsCAD is a wonderful development platform, and we have hundreds of product people out there, third-party developers, our team members and our customers, as well as all of our people out there who like to do a little bit of Lisp here and a little bit of this there. Our partners are also involved. These are also resellers of BricsCAD. So all of the APIs are out there, and you can see some wonderful companies on the screen here. Everything from possibly civil to process piping to electrical survey, very big these days. So figure out BricsCAD. Yeah, we're CAD, but we're also an amazing development platform for your third-party custom applications. So why would you choose BricsCAD?
Well, the reasons that people normally choose BricsCAD are the 3 that we put on the screen here. Saving money. I think it's pretty obvious. Every company likes to save money. Mom and pop shops are extremely sensitive about the costs. BricsCAD is a really good way to increase your bottom line revenue at the end of the year. Secondly, additional functionality. I'll just come out and say it. There's things that BricsCAD can do that other CAD softwares dream of doing. The machine learning tools, some AI stuff, in addition to it's just a lower cost CAD product that actually has more functionality than your typical straight AutoCAD today. Lastly, they're just unhappy with their current CAD situation, whether it's their contracts that they're stuck in. Maybe they don't offer, the current CAD software doesn't offer network licensing. A lot of those things are the reasons that we hear that users are ready to change to BricsCAD. So now that they've decided that they're looking at changing to BricsCAD, what are the things, Grant, that we need to be focused on while migrating from, let's say, AutoCAD to BricsCAD?
Well, Craig, we have 4 simple stages that we are going to take you through today in some type of detail. We're going to try and have a little bit of fun, possibly some demonstrations in there, just to keep everybody awake during this presentation. It's all about planning, execution, and then finally, check and test. So let's take this a little further on here. Craig, tell us about these 4 steps and especially the plan that we're going to start with.
All right, so let's dive right into it. As Grant identified, we have the 4 steps. We have plan, execute, check, and test. We're going to continue to do this throughout the rest of the session. So get used to hearing this. Within the planning step, let's focus on that first. This is where we're going to want to run two of the environments at the same time. Before your current software contract is up, we want to make sure that we have access to that stuff. So there has to be a plan accordingly. And then this is where we determine what needs to be migrated. And Grant's going to walk us through the highlights of the plan phase.
Okay, again, 5 topics that are at the high level here. Understand your current CAD environment, what you are currently working in, and what you need when you migrate over. Find out how you're going to involve your users. Are they going to be part of the migration? Well, I think they should be, because they need to be part of the plan. Get your files organized, structure them, and make sure that they're easy to find and easy to bring over to a BricsCAD platform. Make sure your workstations and your peripherals, plotters, we got a bit about that coming up a little later, and your network paths and shares. Make sure they're available in both systems, but keep them apart. So Craig's going to give us a tiny bit more detail on just what we mean by the planning stage.
Yeah, so the planning stage is not necessarily just the file aspect, although that's what we're going to focus on. A lot of the planning step is, how do you want to communicate this to your staff? What kind of team do you want to have involved? Do you have one office or multiple offices? Do they have different industries that they work in? Maybe one's a bridge department, maybe one's a site department. So you have to take those in consideration as well. We recommend establishing an implementation team to have a few people being in charge of gathering information from their departments, from the different geos, even around the globe. This is fundamental. What we've also understood during this transition time is that there's a lot of companies who, based upon this CAD transition, are now starting to go back and clean up standards. We've dealt with companies that didn't even know they had certain templates. And so now these internal parts of these companies are starting to actually talk together and kind of corral everything that they have and say, hey, look, we've let this go on for way too long. Now is a really good time for us to kind of regroup and gather everything together and find out what kind of formats we're producing and where our templates are, and are people using rogue blocks that aren't in standards folders, right? So this is a great time to get everything together. And during this time, what we found out is there are quite a few files that you'll need to migrate over. And that was what our next slide will show us.
So this is the files that we are talking about. These are the files that we think are probably the most important. And again, it's all about planning. It's not really about what we want to do with these files yet, but we need to understand where they are in your current system so that we can access them and get them into the correct pathing for the new system of BricsCAD. We want to make sure that you do some type of inventory and make sure that if you use these type of files, they are available. Some of them are custom, some we only need to take certain parts of them. And we'll talk a little bit more about this later. So right now it's about inventory. Get a real grip on what it is that you use and what you will need when you move over to BricsCAD. So with that, let's talk about the next step, the execution phase.
Great. So now that we've planned and we've gathered our team and everybody has a good understanding of the direction that we're wanting to go, now it's time to execute. That is the actual moving and copying, taking files from folder to folder. As we're going along, we need to make sure we don't migrate what is not being used. The old printers, the KIP printer that you used to have 15 years ago that's sitting in the storage room now, and you still have those files for that, you don't need to bring those over, right? So this is also kind of a cleanup as you go process. And Grant's going to, again, show us some highlights on the execution phase.
Okay, again, we have our 5 paths that we're going to focus on. And we're talking about creating a parallel install. We want to make sure that you get a BricsCAD setup that's completely autonomous from the AutoCAD setup. Let's not cross paths. Let's not cross files or folders or anything. Keep it completely separate. Build that user profile. You'd be surprised how many times we come across companies that don't even use user profiles in the way that they can customize or reflect their environment to certain projects, perhaps. So get a handle on that, because we want to build exactly what we have to make our users feel like they're at home. Establish the network folders. Very important that everything runs smoothly as it did before. Migrate your customizations. We got a little bit about that coming up soon. And test B while running A as part of the execute. And we do have a little demonstration. Craig, a little bit more detail on this?
Yeah, as you mentioned, Grant, it's very important when you are migrating from A to B that you make sure that your pathing is set the way it needs to be. Are your files that you currently have, are they set locally on your C drive? You're probably going to want to mimic that. As well as, are there network folders that they need to have access to? So when you're setting your template pathing, when you're setting your sheet set manager template pathing, those are the kinds of things that you'll look out for in the options file of AutoCAD, where you have the files tab and it shows you all your file search paths. So those are the kinds of things that you really need to be looking out for, as well as your CUIs. CUIs are important. So if you have some toolbar customizations that you've created in-house, not the AutoCAD stuff, but the in-house stuff, you can separate that to its own CUI, and you can import that into BricsCAD as well. So there's a lot of things that you really focused on here about creating that similar environment. You know, as the right click setup, we have a tool called the quad, and the quad seems to get in the way sometimes of the right click, and people are used to the right click. So it's stuff like that to make sure that when they hit right click, that it functions and all the options are there as expected. You know, there's muscle memory that's been developed over the years of doing CAD, right? And you want to retain that muscle memory and not be worried about what button you're clicked on or how to do your job, right? So that's what we're taking care of here, so that when you, the user, gets in and starts using it, you can pick right up where you left off. So with that, we are going to rediscuss now those files that we were looking at planning. We're going to look at now executing those files and that transition over to the BricsCAD folder system.
Great, Craig. Okay, we see the same slide that we saw a little bit earlier, just to tell you that if we've done the planning correctly, we've inventoried where all of these files are and whether we use these files or not in a custom approach. If we don't use them in a custom approach, you might be very well off with the standard files that come with BricsCAD. Now, if you're looking at things like hatch patterns and line types using the AutoCAD files, there's portions of there that you can take from those files and cut and paste into the BricsCAD appropriate file. We don't want everything. Some of it is proprietary to Autodesk. That's their business. Take the stuff that you've already customized and cut and paste only that portion, so we don't step on anybody's toes. This is also very important for our developers to understand these different files, the slight nuances with the file formats. And again, Craig mentioned custom UIs. You need to figure out which menus are good. Take out the bits that you need, not the bits that Autodesk provided for you, but the bits that you created yourselves. These are the important parts that we need during the execution phase. Little later on, we're going to delve into the ACAD Lisp and ACAD Doc Lisp. Actually, it's going to be pretty soon. No, sorry, not the ACAD Doc Lisp, the ACAD Lisp and the OnStart Lisp, which is the BricsCAD equivalent. We'll also talk a little bit about plot styles and PC3s, and that's from our CAD manager, Geek Craig, who'll take you through a little bit about that. But it's very important that these files and the important parts within the files, important sections, come over to the BricsCAD files. They have slightly different names in certain times, but we can help you with this. We also have wonderful learning tools, and we'll talk a little bit about that later, that are available on our website that highlight with short videos, so you don't get a little bit bug-eyed watching videos all the time, but it takes you through what it is that you need to look for in the AutoCAD appropriate file and bring it over to the BricsCAD appropriate file. So right now we're going to switch screens, and I'm going to talk a little bit about ACAD Lisp and OnStart Lisp here. So can we switch over to Craig's machine, please? So Craig has lined up for us a wonderful plethora of information. What I'm trying to show here is that when we're moving Lisp code from the AutoCAD environment to the BricsCAD environment, it's very easy to do and it's very similar, but there are small nuances. You can see here on the right-hand side where the AutoCAD is, there's a little command line that I've set up inside the ACAD Lisp that tells you a little bit about your version. It also welcomes you to the system also. It'll tell you a little bit about your profile and your search path. Now, search path is quite important because we will delve on that in a little bit later. Can we see the Lisp file, Craig, that is running this AutoCAD Lisp? So you can see what I've done here is I've just gone and I've found some of the system variables and I've printed them to the screen to let the user know a little bit more about his environment or her environment so that we can get a grip on just where we are. And hey, sometimes you're clicking on the wrong ones. Oh, this is not the right profile for me. Something's wrong. Talk to your CAD manager. If we head on over to the left-hand side of the screen and view the command line for the BricsCAD, well, we have the same thing. And what I did was actually copy the code from the AutoCAD Lisp. I put it into the OnStart.Lisp, the BricsCAD version, and I made a few little changes because of the nuances with some of the system variables. One of them that's very important is the search path system variable inside BricsCAD. The appropriate one in AutoCAD is ACAD prefix. So these are the small nuances that you might just want to be aware of when you're bringing over Lisp code or maybe even C++ code. It all works, and there's always a way to get it done, but it just may look a little different. And even in the OnStart Lisp, I've included other things such as the base file. With the base file is your template file. So there are some things that are available in Lisp over here that might not be available in Lisp over there, but we're just making things better. And we're here in the execution phase where we brought it over into our environment, and now we can get ready to go forward. That's a little bit about just bringing over some Lisp routines. Pretty simple stuff, but it all works. And that's really important when we're talking about migrating over. Let's make it as easy as possible. Craig, you're the CAD manager here. What do we need to know about all these plot styles and folders and all that funky stuff that we just want to bring over to make BricsCAD look the same? And remember, to all of you out there, remember search path. Craig's got a little story about that.
So as you can see, I brought my options up in AutoCAD. I brought the settings, which is basically the same thing. You can also use the command options to access the settings in BricsCAD. They are slightly different. However, you will notice that within the program files and the files, here are my file search paths. So I am wanting to, in the end, within this, mimic exactly what I have in AutoCAD, minus the AutoCAD pathing. Again, that's not to be brought over. So any of your pathing that you currently have for your templates, as long as they're not embedded in an Autodesk folder, you could use those. We do recommend most of the time copying a folder, at least temporarily, so that you are kind of separated. That's the best way to go about this. So if you have to make an adjustment in one, it's not messing up with the other one necessarily. But this is a lot of what we talk about, making sure during the check and test phase and the execute phase that these are set the way they need to, as well as you could go through your display options if you wanted to and set those up. A lot of times there might be a standard for your crosshair size, or there might be a standard for the way the background looks. These are all the things that you want to get set up in advance before you hand this out to your user group, because I guarantee you it's not fun having to explain why your background color is yellow when everybody's used to it being black for so long, right? Or whatever the circumstance may be. So within this, as Grant said, we're in the execution phase. So we've got our pathing set up and our options and our settings accordingly. You notice that we have the same drawing opened in both programs, AutoCAD on the right, BricsCAD on the left. We have the same template drawing showing. It looks relatively the same. Our list came in the same. So now we want to make sure that the things, when we're ready for it to really produce and for it to be on paper or PDF, for our deliverable, we want to make sure that looks good. So if I go into BricsCAD, and I'll just make this easy so everybody can see it, and hit print, notice that my dialog box comes up, and it's recognizing my PC3 file, the paper size, monochrome, CTB, everything's the same. I'll go over to AutoCAD, do the same thing, and I'm basically checking it, right? You might have your CTB file come up missing. You might not have the right and appropriate PC3 file. It will come up missing. So that's what we're focused on here, is making sure that we get everything from AutoCAD over to BricsCAD. So those AutoCAD folders or those files are generally stored in the support folder, whatever AutoCAD platform you're using, Inu, and some of them are in support, but what we're focused on here are the plotters. So we're going to basically come in here, and let me back up. So you have your out-of-the-box folders here for BricsCAD. What we recommend is creating your own support folder. You can call it whatever you want. I've called it internal support. And what we're going to do is we're going to take all the migrated files that we have, and we're going to place them in here. So remember when I talked about coming to your settings page? When we come in here to our settings page, we go to program options and files. I've already added it, but you can see I've taken my internal support folder and I've placed it at the top. Very familiar. If you're a CAD manager or any sort of heavy CAD user that knows about customizations, you know that that file folder will get read first when it opens. So that ensures the fact that when we go to our internal support folder, that all of these folders will also be read. So we are migrating plotters, and we come in here and you notice I don't have any. So I'm going to take these and I'm going to Control C, I'm going to Control V, and we have them. So I might want to come in here and grab these PC3 files, right? Now notice some of those might overwrite, so that's where you'll have to do a comparison. So maybe I don't want to do that right now. Maybe I want to just focus on the PC3 files that are in that folder. As well as you have plot styles. We talked about plot styles, right? So here's our plot style folder. Oh, wait. I have PC3 files in my plot style folder. Well, that doesn't make sense. So I can either get rid of them or copy them over. But guess what? This is the time, as we discussed earlier, to clean up as you go, right? These are obviously in the wrong location. So you know what? Instead of moving them somewhere, I'm just going to delete them. They'll be on my recycle bin if I need them later. I can grab them. Wait a second. What are these things? Kit 3000. I had those back in 2005. Gone, right? So I'm going to grab this stuff here, and I'm going to Control C. I'm going to come over to my plot styles. And yeah, I'll replace them. So now I've got my plot styles. I've got my PC3 files. So it's a matter of then going back in and making sure that, I'm here, right? Like why would I stop my process right now if I'm here? And I'm curious. I'm really, really curious. We got landscape, everything. Okay, everything matches. All right, so I'm going to hit OK, and I'm going to plot over here. And we're going to go ahead and, yep, I'm going to overwrite my file, creating a PDF. And while that's creating, oh, showed up on screen. Okay, cool. All right. Well, you know what? It's vertical. Okay, cool. So that is what I expected when I plotted my AutoCAD. It might not be preferable to some people, but that's what it came in as, right? So when we were getting ready to present this, I thought to myself, okay, what could I do differently that shows that AutoCAD and BricsCAD are similar, right? And they produce the similar output. I could have gone in and changed the orientation to that, but there was a reason that I didn't, is because it's showing exactly the same. So even though it's not turned in the orientation, I left it like that on purpose to show that, hey, look, it produces the same exact PDF. It's not going to switch orientations just because. You have to actually set it up that way. And because we had AutoCAD set up this way, that's why BricsCAD functions this way. So you can see that during that execution phase, it's also a little bit of check and test, which leads us right into Grant showing us and discussing a little bit more and recapping on our execution phase.
Can we switch back to my machine there, Eric, please?
Yeah, go ahead and take control again, bud.
Okay. So here we are again. And share. How'd that work out? Is that good?
Yep.
Okay, good. So back at this famous slide from now on, we've planned it, we've executed it, we've moved stuff over. It's now a time to do some checking and testing. Remember, these files are important not only to users and CAD managers alike, but also to developers and third-party developers. You need to know what it is that makes BricsCAD work. We have some little videos on our website, which are wonderful explaining this. Craig will touch a little bit about that later on in the session. Right now, I'm going to move over to the execution phase. And to the check and test phase. And Craig's going to give us a little overview on this before we go forward.
Okay, so we've already kind of had a little preview to the check and test phase, right? Like, as you're going through that stuff, you might want to check and test as you're going along. It doesn't necessarily have to be execute and then stop everything and then check and test. It's kind of simultaneous as you go through this. So again, we're wanting to replicate the environment. Notice that I had the same drawing up on the same screen and I could have them side by side. To me, other than maybe having two monitors to be able to do that, that is the best way to check and test this system. Before I was even at BricsCAD, I looked at BricsCAD to migrate as well. And that was the way that Robert Green, who will be with his panel later on, he was the one who walked us through the process of migrating from A to B. So I sat there and watched a Robert Green video just like today, and he showed me how to get files to files and move this over. And I thought, wow, is it that easy? And in about a half an hour, because I had identified where my file, where everything should be, I did that up front. It took me about a half an hour. And everything was able to be moved over. So again, you check the existing drawings that you have in AutoCAD, and like we said, do they plot the same? And then at the end, is something missing? So Grant's now going to walk us through the other 5 aspects of the check and test.
Yeah, well, network ecosystem, best way, you got to build it. Ensure no AutoCAD pathing is applied. Okay, your custom user interface. Just don't screw things up by doing stuff and using AutoCAD pathing in files. Keep it separate. Keep your search paths updated, network local, files. We've talked a lot about files and file implementation. Please don't use the AutoCAD files. They belong to AutoCAD. Understand the app resources. If there's development effort, I mentioned a little bit about Lisp, but if you're writing in C++ and the runtime extension ARX, well, BricsCAD has a similar called BRX. It just needs a recompile, that's all. What type of drives you got? Your folder permissions. Make sure they're all available for the people who require the files that are necessary. And test that ecosystem. Test on one machine, make changes, export the user profile, change the changes on another machine. Again, testing, testing, testing. And just as Craig showed you, test the output. It looks the same, perfect. That's what we expect. We want it to be the same as it was. If we want to make changes future, that's fine. But let's first get it working the way that it did. And again, go back and adjust the user profile. That is very important because you're going to want to distribute that user profile to your users depending upon the different profiles that they want. Verify and finalize. Test B while running A. We've said this many times, and we started at plan. We've been through the execution phase, and now we're in this checking and testing. It's not only that we got it working and it's working and running, let's test it again and test it in different environments and test it with different workflows and make sure it is stable, and then you can deploy. So think about the steps. Take them, take the wise words of Grant and Craig. And of course, Craig mentioned our mentor, Robert Greene, who, we wouldn't be here today if it wasn't for him teaching us what to do 3.5, 4 years ago. So this is all for Robert. Thanks, Robert. We're ready for the deployment stage now. Keep your head down. It'll work fine. Here's Craig for a wrap-up of today's session. We got more after this. This is just a wrap-up of the stages.
So to your point, Grant, you mentioned test and check and do all this stuff. One thing that I always make sure to mention, and it's kind of the elephant in the room, you're probably not going to get it right the first time. Let's just be honest. Something's going to come up missing. Somewhere somebody's created their own tool palette that once you now have established BricsCAD, they're like, well, our tool palettes that you imported are no longer there. It's like, well, where are you keeping them? So there will be stuff that surfaces. So this is, again, comes back to the planning stage, making sure you have the right people in place, gaining the right information. You'll find out how good your planning stage was based upon the amount of people you come knocking at your door asking for additional tools later. So again, we had planning stage, execution phase, check, and test. And while all that's great, it sounds great. What do I do if I don't have BricsCAD?
Craig, what a great question and a great time to ask that question. BricsCAD is available on our webpage, bricsys.com. It is a free 30-day trial. If you want to do something a little different and you've got a pilot project, we can sort you out also with possible network licensing. Again, flexibility is our name. Give it a try. Give it a try with what we showed you today. If you need anything, you give us a call. More than that, our webpage, we've mentioned it a couple times, and Craig will go over some really cool stuff coming up in a couple slides. But on our webpage, also, we have manuals and simplicity guides, the Migration Made Simple guide. It's got pretty much everything that we have discussed today. And it's good to, scribble on and write notes if you want to print it out. But it's all there, it's all available, and it's all free for you to go and look at with your free 30-day trial. Licensing options, again, We can give you an insight as to what will be necessary for you to get multiple people working over a server-based application, server-based licensing, let's call it that. The BricsCAD Quick Start Guide, something that we've just put together the past year to help people come from the AutoCAD environment into the BricsCAD environment. Quick start, easy process, get on the truck really early, and then you're ready to go. Don't wait around, get on it. So here we go. Craig's going to take us a little bit through some of the learning and some of the social presence that we also have on Brixis.
Great. So as you mentioned, Grant, as far as learning BricsCAD, we have a host of tools for anybody to use. What we really tried to focus on was that there are different learning styles. So whether that is a white paper, whether that are YouTube videos, and it's shown on the screen here at lessons.brixis.com, we have free lessons. You sign up, takes like 30 seconds, and you have access to a wide variety of learning courses. Now, what these do is they're divided up into certain aspects, which if you're, for one on the screen, it says AutoCAD to BricsCAD. So it helps you understand the similarities and differences between the two. You know, like I mentioned before, there are certain aspects to the BricsCAD program that no other CAD software has. So it goes through things that you are familiar with, moving from another CAD program to BricsCAD, but as well as there are certain BricsCAD essentials that are specific to BricsCAD. Now, what we have highlighted down there is migrating to BricsCAD. Basically, everything that we discussed today, and especially our big list of all the things that we need to migrate, all of that's mentioned in those lessons, and they're all done by video. So it's a little bit different of a presentation than we gave you today, but a lot of it is the same. So when you get down to shape files or the plot files videos, it's pretty much what we showed you, but you have the ability to go back and hit repeat and hit repeat and hit repeat if you need to, right? So again, these are all self-paced. They're all free. We found that they're very useful when establishing your team to BricsCAD. It gives them a really good overview of what BricsCAD is and allows them to get familiar with it before they've even touched it. And then next, again, I mentioned we have our YouTube page. We talk a lot about V24, our newest version release. We talk about the drafting enhancements, the compatibility that we have with DWG, and you can find a lot more on our YouTube page, official YouTube page. And lastly, like I mentioned, Todd Rogers was kind enough a couple years ago to invite us into this world to be able to broadcast what BricsCAD is. And as a user of CAD for 19 years, as a former CAD manager, what we try to do each month is incorporate things that users want to see. Users don't really care about how much a software costs. They want to know about functionality. Does it make me quicker? Is my boss going to be happier that I got my job done sooner? Those are the kinds of things that we focus on, as well as migration aspects. So you can find our BricsCAD articles, as well as the article that Grant and I wrote about migration. Be sure to check out next month's edition, as we wrote about change management, which goes hand in hand with migrating and implementing your team to a new CAD software, or really anything in general. We know that change is hard and difficult for humans, right? And so we touch on that aspect with a little bit of CAD in it. So be sure to check that out. I think it'll come around the 8th of May. And with that, we're going to wrap up our presentation. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to contact Grant or myself. You can see the information there on the screen. Find me at LinkedIn, Craig Swearingen, or Grant, the implementation guy, on LinkedIn. With that, we will kick it back to Eric and ask if there are any questions.
Yes, there are. We have a handful of them.
Great.
Again, for those of you who wanted to be officially a part of the presentation, there's a Q&A section. So I know some people put it in the main chat, but let's get going here. So Seth Cohen asked, is there a Civil 3D equivalent going to be added to BricsCAD anytime soon?
Really good question.
That's
A
for you.
question we hear a lot. Right now, we have a very good, dependable third-party product, Civil Site Design. It also works in tandem with AutoCAD products. I'm sure people have heard of it. We know, as a former Civil 3D user, I can understand the certain aspects that they're looking for within BricsCAD. We are and have been developing our Civil 3D tools. They're geared more towards surveying rather than complete road design. But yeah, we work really well with Civil Site Design. And if you have any questions on that, we can always get a presentation set up with us and Civil Site Design.
Okay, great. Next question. Can you create dynamic blocks in BricsCAD?
No, you can't, is the answer to that. Now, you can use dynamic blocks in BricsCAD, and we have some wonderful tools that allow you to edit certain portions of the dynamic blocks, but we cannot create them. We also have a similar block called parametric blocks, which are essentially the BricsCAD equivalent of dynamic blocks, but we cannot create dynamic blocks, but they are compatible inside our DWG platform, and they are to an extent editable inside the interface.
So to add on to that, you can use the existing parameters and functions within your existing dynamic block. You can use those in BricsCAD, but you cannot edit it. As well, we mentioned we have resources available. If you go to the link, the migration to BricsCAD link that we had in our presentation, we have a parametrics blocks explained guide that shows you how to get your dynamic blocks and have them function accordingly from AutoCAD into BricsCAD.
Okay, great. Another question was, do you have any distributors in Kuwait to arrange a webinar?
That we can find out unless Craig has got his web page open.
You know, there is a name that came off the top of my head. Who was that again? Eric, did you say?
An anonymous attendee. So if
Okay.
you just provide
Anonymous attendee.
Yeah.
There's my email address and there's Grant's email address. Please reach out to us, and or we'll be in the lounge later on. Please reach out to us and we'll get you with somebody that can give you a presentation.
We do have distributors in the Middle East, and one of our BDMs, we can perhaps get him in touch with you and any partners that are available. So yeah, please drop us a line and we'll be able to pass you on to somebody.
Great, thank you. Does the BricsCAD support geolocation and the geo-referenced online, offline images?
Yeah, so we have, well, a couple things. Embedded within BricsCAD, we use Bing Maps. So we have a Bing Maps locator that you can use geolocation on, as well as you can import SHX files, shape files. Additionally, we have an add-on called Plex Earth, which allows you to bring in Google Images. And if you need WMS connections to servers, we also provide that, as well as importing PDFs and images and the normal stuff that you would expect.
Okay, thank you. Next one, is there any patch to be able to work with Autodesk dynamic blocks?
We had mentioned that. Right. And just Autodesk has the patent on it. And they have the that's what it is. So we do the best we can right now with being able to bring those in and use your existing parameters that you have assigned to those. And again, we do have a tool embedded within BricsCAD that will change your dynamic block to a parametric block. And then you can go ahead and edit it and add parameters and other constraints to it as a parametric block.
Okay. Let me see. We have some other ones in the general chat. Do you have tools for quantity takeoff?
We do have tools for quantity takeoff. They've been developed recently within our newest version of 24. You'll find those within our civil tools. And I believe those are comparable, if not better, tools for quantity and takeoff than what you currently have probably in your current CAD program. If you understand what I'm saying. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Yeah. We also have bill of material capabilities, if that is part of that question, also within our BIM workspace.
Okay. And the general chat, I think it's Binu. He had a question. This might have been the Kuwait question because he's from Kuwait. Is the BricsCAD file located in a network folder? Is it possible to work multiple user on the same file from different locations? And possible saves to save time and get the updates from different users. Sorry, I think there's a little bit of was that clear enough?
Being able to check out certain parts of a drawing.
It looks like multiple people working on the same file potentially.
I'm afraid that is not part of the BricsCAD platform.
Okay. Let me just look here real quick.
We do offer a file sharing host called Brixis 24/7. If that's something more that they would be looking into as far as a place for access.
Okay. Another question was, is there a free version for one to try it out?
Yes, it is a 30-day free trial and like free. No restrictions, no obligations. You get the whole shebang. We don't limit you to BricsCAD Lite. You get everything. You get the mechanical, the BIM, the civil tools, all the pro tools, and the machine learning aspects that BricsCAD has. You get all of that free for 30 days. And you go to brixis.com and hit download, and you'll want to download our newest version of V24.2.
Okay. Two more questions here real quick as we wrap this up. Does BricsCAD work on ACC?
Unfortunately, it doesn't, but it is a bit of a wish list for me and some of our developers. As Craig said, we have our own compatible custom CDE, if you want to use those terms, called 24/7, which allows you to share files and manipulate files throughout a project online. And that's a separate application to BricsCAD.
Yep. Domenico has his hand up as an attendee. Please put your question inside the chat, so that way we can answer that. If not, Craig and Grant will be in the lounge if you want to ask them questions there. One last question, I guess, as we wrap this up. John has a question. If you purchase a perpetual BricsCAD license, do you still pay for upgrades each year?
Well, Craig and I are not salespeople, and we don't really talk about the money side of things. But my understanding, and don't quote me on this, is that you do not pay for upgrades, but you generally do because you will be asked to pay for a maintenance fee every year, which includes those upgrades.
That said, Grant, for anybody that buys a brand new seat of BricsCAD, maintenance for the first year is automatically included. Now, whether you decide to continue with maintenance after the first year, that would be up to you. But for the first year, maintenance is full-blown included within the price. It's not an add-on price or anything else. So when you go to the website or anywhere else and you hit, what's my price? It's not going to be like, do you want to add maintenance? It's like, no, it's all there. So it's all inclusive. And I think, we have a terrific technical support system that with maintenance, you get high priority. So any questions that you get on and ask, and you can share files, you get priority support, and maybe even sometimes a phone call from me if you really need it, or Grant. We're not opposed to doing that. So we pride ourselves on having the best customer service in the CAD industry. And I think that's where we are head and shoulders above any other CAD software platform, because we understand what it's like to be a user. Having been a former user all day, I know that when I need a question or support, I go to two places. I go to the Brixis Help Center, or I go to Augie Forums, and I know I'm going to get my answer.